tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
As far as you can see, just a parking lot.
Frozen. Chaos on highways and roads. Metro Vancouver in a deep freeze also.
It's very pungent.
Sewage.
Sewage, yes.
So why isn't anything being done to deal with the stink in South Surrey? And they're coming to Canada, so where will the Royals reside?
This is CBC Vancouver News.
It was approximately 6 cars sort of at the bottom of the hill, sort of all slid down slowly and piled into one another.
Chaos from a weekend blast of winter, crashes, delays, or closures in nearly every area of the South Coast, leaving commuters moving in slow motion and buses going nowhere fast. Good evening. Well, the snow finally stopped, but sub-zero temperatures continue to cause headaches for commuters tonight, and with it, concern over extreme cold conditions for the homeless. We'll go live to Dan Burrett at a warming center in just a few minutes, but first to Anita, live looking over Highway 1 in Burnaby with the latest on driving conditions there tonight. How's it going, Anita?
Mike, this afternoon and evening's commute has been an absolute nightmare. You can see behind me here on Highway 1 in Burnaby, traffic is just crawling. It's barely moving, and it's been like this all day. You know, I was back at the newsroom and I check on Google Maps frequently throughout the day, and Highway 1 was just a sea of red. It's been crawling like this all day, and that means no sign of relief. And that has prompted a lot of questions by commuters in the way of were cities and the province prepared for this? It all started last night. From the first flakes at night to the frosty, freezing reality of the morning commute, Highway 1, a sheet of ice, with avoidable accidents making traffic even worse. Complaints all morning from drivers. No salt, no sand. Nothing on the sheet of ice you call Highway 1, tweets Tricia. And Mandeep says no salt on Highway 1. But the province says with temperatures changing regularly and drastically, keeping things clear isn't easy.
We're salting, we're brining, we're applying abrasives, but there are challenging winter conditions out there.
He says highways are cleared on a priority basis.
A Highway 1 corridor has our highest ranking and obviously gets the most level of attention and the most immediate response, and then we work our way down from there. Our contractors are expected to perform, and we audit them regularly on this on a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week basis.
But the Trans-Canada, not the only major route hit hard.
As far as you can see, just a parking lot.
Multiple crashes near the Tsawwassen Ferry Terminal stranded drivers and forced them to get creative.
After 2 hours and then 3 hours, people have needs. So a lot of people starting to circulate, do their things, roll down windows, dump certain things.
These delays come after weather caused 3 straight days of canceled ferries.
Most of us, it's been so cold, you have to just sit in your car with the engine running to get heat. And I think a few people ran out of gas, so they would walk by asking for gas cans.
The hope is with this snowfall being the primer and more snow expected, drivers and maintenance crews will be able to better prepare. Now, of course, it's not just highways like this one that have been dealing with the chaos and the traffic jams. It's also side streets throughout Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. Those side streets are covered in white, and it's very unlikely they're going to be cleared anytime soon, if at all. In fact, residents may actually have to take some of that clearing into their own hands. Let's go now to Eva Ugwen-Sanch, who spent the day looking at some of those problems around the region.
The big freeze left many commuters stuck. Buses going nowhere, massive delays on SkyTrain, and accidents shutting down roads, like the one leading up to Mount Seymour on the North Shore.
I wanted to leave around 9:30, and here we are, 1:30 in the morning, and I'm just getting down now.
Dozens of skiers and snowboarders were trapped at the Mount Seymour ski resort for hours Sunday night after a vehicle incident shut down the only road leading up and down the mountain. In Surrey, it's been all hands on deck since last week.
We have 39 trucks out. They'll continue to be out on rotating 12-hour shifts until such time as we no longer need them to deal with any snow or ice that we've got.
But drivers are still frustrated with slick conditions, especially on side streets.
And the side roads very slippy. The main roads are pretty good.
Yeah, I don't even think they use brine on any of the roads, so it was pretty much a sheet of ice driving everywhere today.
And residents shouldn't expect those side streets to get cleared anytime soon, as cities like Surrey and Vancouver continue to focus on priority roads.
With needing to hit those priority routes to manage the ice, we're going to have to hit them continually. So we don't see coming off priority routes for some time.
And while some criticize the city for being unprepared for the forecast, city staff said they did the best they could.
It rained a lot in advance of this cold snow weather. That means that any pre-treatment we had on the road just gets washed off the roads. So that just makes it extra challenging because snow does then accumulate.
BC Ferries also canceled sailings Sunday between the mainland and Vancouver Island as gusting wind made docking too risky. That meant Monday morning sailings filled up quickly.
Unfortunately, there was a very bad motor vehicle accident just outside of the Tawasin terminal, and I know that police have been on scene for most of the morning, and they are having single lane traffic, so it has caused us some backups today.
Temperatures across Metro Vancouver hovered between -3 and -5 degrees all day. It's expected they'll stay below freezing for the coming days. Eva Yugwen-Senge, CBC News, Surrey.
So as you can see, the snow, wind, ice, rain, cold. It is -5 right now, really thrashing Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. Places like Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Hope seeing far worse conditions than out here in Burnaby, Vancouver, even Surrey. But the snow, Mike, isn't all bad. I know you're not a big fan, but I happen to be. So I will be back later in the show to show you some of the fun that people had today.
All right, we will look forward to that. Anita Bathe live over Highway 1 tonight. Well, the people who aren't enjoying the snow and cold are those who don't have homes. The city of Vancouver has opened its warming centers and extra shelter spaces, but homeless advocates argue they need a warming tent that's open 24/7. CBC Vancouver News at 11 host Dan Burrett is live outside one of the shelters downtown. He joins us now. Dan, people are especially concerned about those at a well-known park in the area.
Indeed, Mike. It's hard enough living outdoors in our normally mild weather, but take a look at what people were dealing with who are living in Oppenheimer Park. Snow caking tents, weighing them down, keeping things very cold this morning. Homeless advocates say they have been pushing for a warming center with the city since August, but to no avail yet. And early this morning, we saw something else. Rats digging through garbage in the snow at Oppenheimer as people shivered nearby. We also met a man who says he was sent out of a nearby shelter early this morning.
What happened? Did they just wake you up?
Shelters do that, including UGM.
What time did they kick you out?
Close to 7.
Yeah. So what do you do?
I don't know. You just go outside and you're outside.
Now, Union Gospel Mission says it does extend its shelter hours when it gets this cold, but it does have its limits since it is abstinence-based facility, meaning people who are using drugs or alcohol or other substances can't use those in their facility. The city warming centers are open overnight, but they do close during the day, and there is one half a block from Oppenheimer. But advocates argue that many of the people who are living outdoors are worried and confused not only about the hours of when those warming centers are open, but they're concerned that they won't be able to bring their belongings indoors. The city tells us the shopping carts that people may use and their pets are welcome.
Approaches that we won't turn anyone away from coming in warming centers. So anyone that wants to come inside, we're gonna welcome them and give them something hot to drink and some food. Right now we have 4 sites that can serve roughly 160 people, but people can come and go. But anyone that comes, we're not going to turn them away.
So the 4 warming centers the city has opened, as we mentioned, the Powell Street Getaway just down the road from Oppenheimer Park. There is the Overdose Prevention Society Center, which is on Hastings near Maine. There's also the Britannia Community Center on Venables. And here, outside the Vancouver Aquatic Center, keep in mind, these shelters open between 9 and 11 at night, and they close between 6 and 8:30 in the morning. Mike?
All right, Dan, live on a snowy beach avenue tonight. Thanks. All right, let's bring in meteorologist Brett Soderholm now. We heard Anita say, Brett, it's -5 out there right now, and chilly here and around the province, in fact.
Oh, that's absolutely right. These are some of the coldest temperatures we have certainly seen all winter, and definitely temperatures just dropping even further. Vancouver now down at -6, but headed out into the valley, -12 in Hope. That is a full 12 degrees below normal for this time of year. If we do a little kind of province-wide wrap-up here, you'll notice other temperatures right now, very much on the cold side. Kelowna, -17, into places Prince George, we're sitting at -34, and very far to the north for Fort Nelson, Dease Lake, exactly at that same temperature. And shout out to all of those in Yellowknife dealing with -38. But if you are wondering, what is it like up north right now in terms of the cold and all of the snow, I've got some things to show you here. Some really beautiful pictures coming straight out of, well, basically everywhere in the north of BC. Some lots of snowy pictures at this point in time. People trying to make the best of it, going out, catching what little bit of sun they can, and then certainly even the wildlife there trying to survive those temperatures. I don't envy them at this point in time. However, for this point for us, temperatures across the country, largely all this cold air is centered completely over Western Canada, and it is very rare when Vancouver -6 is far colder than Toronto, which is presently sitting at +1. In terms of what we can expect, look at all of these extreme cold warnings. They are blanketing the west. We even have Arctic outflow warnings for places like Prince Rupert. So in addition to getting some strong winds up potentially up to 80 kilometers an hour, wind chill values will be feeling closer to -20, and that is still in effect as well for the sea to sky between Squamish and Whistler, and it does apply to the Fraser Valley. So what do we have in store for us? Well, not much is going to be changing. It's still going to be cold. Tomorrow we are still looking at just a few flurries throughout the morning and into the early afternoon, but these cold temperatures are going to be sticking with us, and that means that we could be dealing with another significant round of snow as early as tomorrow night, lasting until Wednesday morning, and I'll have all those details when I come back.
All right, thanks, Brett. See you in a bit. For patients with a debilitating rare disease, a drug called Spinraza could be life-changing. It's also one of the most expensive medications in the world. In BC, some young patients have been waiting for years to see if they'll get coverage for Spinraza. But as Bethany Lindsay from the CBC Vancouver's Impact team tells us, they've just received some disappointing news.
It is life-limiting, and that's the scary part.
Miles Ambridge has a rare disease called type 2 spinal muscular atrophy.
I have trouble reaching for things. I can barely move my legs. I can barely move my feet.
It's slowly getting worse. A drug called Spinraza might help. In some cases, it can even reverse some effects of the disease. But it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And Miles just found out he's too old to get coverage from the province.
I think it's, for the sake of TV, it's stupid.
He's 14. BC will cover Spinraza for patients 12 and under.
It's beyond me, and it's baffling.
Patient advocates want to know why BC made this decision.
All the other provinces have approved for all patients to be able to at least apply for access to treatment. All other provinces have approved up to the age of 18.
In BC, patients like Miles who are under 18 can still apply for coverage, but not adults. That means 23-year-old Holly Vanderwick is out of luck.
In this moment, I'm very appalled to be living in BC.
She's seen how Spinraza has helped friends in other provinces, making them stronger and more energetic. She's happy for them.
But it also makes me sad because I know that I don't have the opportunity to have access to the drug myself.
The province says its guidelines line up with scientific evidence, but Miles doesn't buy that.
Like, it really makes you just want to punch a hole into the wall and just scream, like, mentally and internally.
For now, patients are left looking at other provinces in envy. Bethany Lindsay, CBC News, New Westminster.
It has been described as a mixture of rotten eggs and sewage. Residents in South Surrey say that tear-jerking stench has been wafting their way for years now. But as Jesse Johnston of our CBC Vancouver Impact team explains, it's the bureaucratic delays that have left them breathless.
When we met Cynthia Adams 2 years ago, she was fed up with a stench wafting over from a farm near her home.
It smells like rotten eggs.
Her neighbor, Eric Stousgard, was also sick of the sickening smell.
People want to, enjoy the environment they live in. It's a beautiful area, but how do you enjoy that when you have an odor like that floating around?
Since we last saw Adams and Stousgard in January 2018, the federal government, BC Ministry of Environment, the Agricultural Land Commission, and the city have all been notified. Plus, Metro Vancouver has had more than 140 odor complaints. But it still stinks.
Yeah.
Worse than that sometimes. It's very pungent.
Sewage?
Sewage, yes.
In an email to CBC News, the owner of the property, Sandra Baird, says she's working hard to comply with any environmental issues. She says she's trying to get along with her neighbors, but it's difficult to run a farm when you're surrounded by housing and traffic. Neighbors acknowledge Baird is trying to address the problem, and she's phasing out the topsoil operation, which most neighbors blame for the smell.
Yeah, it's gone up in recent years.
But Metro Vancouver says the topsoil business hasn't gone away. The company, operated by Baird's brother, has just moved it to another property across the street.
The operations on the south side of 8th Avenue have discontinued, and they are removing material from that pile. However, they've moved now to the north side and have been putting material there.
Sandra Baird says she has no control over the new property, and her brother declined CBC's request for an interview.
They wouldn't be wanting to, create any more issues.
The province says fines are coming against the property owner, but it's still determining how steep they'll be. Metro Vancouver says it likely won't act before the BC government does. Meanwhile, Stousgard and Adams don't care which government body steps in. They just want the stink to go away.
The problem's been identified. We know what the solution is. We've identified who can enforce that solution, and it's just a matter of getting them to do it.
2 years, hundreds of complaints, and 5 levels of government. Doesn't add up to enough to get rid of one powerful stench. Jesse Johnston, CBC News, Surrey.
The police are investigating what they believe is a murder in Maple Ridge, and they're looking for information from the public. On Saturday, a body was found in a rural area near the 24500 block of Lougheed Highway. The identity of the victim isn't known. The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team hopes someone may have been walking in the area and seen something of significance. New video was shown today at the trial of Gabriel Klein. He's accused of fatally stabbing 13-year-old Letitia Reimer inside her Abbotsford High School. Klein is charged with 1 count of second-degree murder and 1 count of aggravated assault. This is security video from a BC liquor store Klein went to on the day of the stabbing. It shows him entering the store and appearing to steal alcohol. Klein has admitted to stabbing both girls, but his defense lawyer argues he should be found guilty of manslaughter as his exhibited mental distress beforehand. And just after noon, the day of the attack, Klein went to a Cabela's outdoor sporting goods store. This is where the Crown says Klein stole a hunting-style knife used in the attacks. Last year, the BC Review Board found Klein fit to stand trial. He had previously been found unfit, having been diagnosed with schizophrenia and had been hearing voices. But the Crown says there's no indication he was experiencing a psychotic episode at the time of the attack, that he went into a hunting store and calmly compared knives before stealing one. The trial continues. An unusual admission today from one of Oscar Arfman's lawyers. Arfman was convicted of first-degree murder in October for killing Constable John Davidson in Abbotsford in 2017. His lawyers then raised the issue of Arfman's mental disorder and asked for an assessment. The report concluded that it is possible Arfman did not think he was doing anything wrong because he believed at the time he shot Davidson that police in Canada were being overtaken by the Russian mafia. But Arfman didn't want to use the non-criminally responsible option, insisting he wanted to be sentenced for his crime. The lawyers took the matter to the judge, who refused to intervene. Arfman will serve time in a regular prison and that worries his lawyer.
We definitely have a person who is schizophrenic, who is going to be in the regular population, and he may or may not get treatment. That's very troubling. And it should be troubling for everyone, including the people who have to incarcerate him.
Arfman will be sentenced February 3rd. He faces a life sentence with no parole eligibility for 25 years. Premier John Horgan says it's possible to have reconciliation with Indigenous people along with oil and gas development. He was talking about the Coastal GasLink pipeline that's been the subject of demonstrations in support of the Wet'suwet'en.
I'm confident that the project has the permits to proceed. And I'm confident that they've received an injunction to continue working. And I'm confident also that our relationship with the Wet'suwet'en people is in a better place today than it was a year ago. And we need to continue to work on that to make sure that their needs and the rights and title that they are standing up for are respected.
He says it's up to the company to build relationships with Indigenous leaders. And a reminder, you can watch this newscast live on CBC Gem. The free app is also where you can find other CBC programs. And CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. They will split their time between Canada and the UK. Coming up, why Meghan, Harry, and Archie could end up settling in BC. And thanks for joining us online for our segment during the regular TV commercial break. Well, this weekend, a crowd of dedicated martial artists braved the weather for a disciplined outdoor workout before the snow hit. The 50th annual Karate Beach practice took place over English Bay. As our John Hernandez reports, Mother Nature threw a curveball at this old Vancouver tradition.
Call it a lesson in endurance. An hour throwing punches, kicks, and stomps outside in the heart of winter.
It's just kind of a way to put yourself out of your daily mundane life.
This is Vancouver's annual Karate Beach practice. It's the brainchild of Sensei Akira Sato, who started the tradition 50 years ago.
We did in Japan too, and I brought beach practice continuing from Japan. It's cold and tough, but build up strong spirit.
It's really about spirit, and one of the ways to develop strong spirit is to take on challenges.
They've done this challenge in the rain and the snow, but this year is the windiest it's ever been. A painful hurdle that can be overcome with the right mindset.
Sometimes the heart stops, you can't breathe, testicles shrink, it gets pretty cold out there, but it resets your brain, so you're ready for the next challenge in your life.
There's no complaints the whole way through, even as students drag their bare feet through the cold sand. But the real test of might is the frigid sea. Longtime student Laurel Suko finds warmth and relief in the icy waves.
I suffered a loss in my family this last week. There's a sudden death, and I didn't know whether I was going to come to this, but I felt like I had to because it would restore me and replenish me and reinvigorate me. And I'm doing it for my brother-in-law, Terry.
In the end, it might take some time to shuck off the cold and rinse the sand off your toes, but these karate warriors wouldn't have it any other way.
You can feel your spirit just soaring out into the water, embracing everything. It's magnificent. It's just incredible.
John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Does look a little chilly for sure. All right, stay with us. Back in just a couple of seconds with the latest on what's making headlines across the country, including the fact that the Royals are relocating to Canada, at least part-time. Stay with us. It looks like Prince Harry, his wife Meghan, and baby Archie will indeed be living in Canada part-time. That was part of an announcement from the Queen today after senior royals met at her Sandringham estate. But little else is known about the couple's future. And as the CBC's Renee Philippone reports, the devil seems to be in the details.
That fairy tale day, just 20 months ago, when the world tuned in for Harry and Meghan's wedding, now seems like a distant memory. Today, the media focused on the Queen's Sandringham estate as she summoned Princes Charles, William, and Harry to discuss the couple's now uncertain future as royals. Following the meeting, she issued a statement calling the talks very constructive, saying the royal family is entirely supportive of Harry and Meghan's desire to create a new life as a young family, though they would have preferred them to remain full-time working members.
The Queen is so determined to try and find some kind of compromise that keeps Harry within the fold, because if Harry was to turn his back on royal duties entirely, I think that would be devastating for the Queen, for the family.
But there are crucial details to work out. What will their role be? Can they keep their Royal Highness's title? And how will they support themselves financially?
There are going to be so many lucrative offers for them going forwards. The most toxic thing for the royal family is being seen to cash in on your royal status.
It's been 5 days since the Duke and Duchess of Sussex made the announcement, and the story continues to dominate the headlines. Princes Harry and William are raising concerns about how the media is covering it.
A media report today suggested William bullied the couple out of the family. The brothers deny it, and in a rare joint statement called the report offensive and potentially harmful.
I absolutely hate the fact that this is being called Megxit.
This UK journalist says Meghan seems to be taking the fall, and she isn't surprised.
Meghan has been vilified by the press for months and months and months now. There's been coverage against her that's been, sexist, racist, all sorts of things, and I just don't find it shocking that her and Harry have finally decided this is it.
From the decision to leave to how the couple went about it, people are looking for someone to blame, as the couple's decision to seek privacy has only pushed them further into the spotlight.
CBC's Renee Philippone reporting tonight from London. So now that Prince Harry and Meghan's move here is a go, how are Canadians feeling about it? And are they going to be stuck paying the security bills? CBC's Catherine Cullen has that side of the story.
At the Royal Oak pub, the royal response is just so very Canadian.
I mean, if they want to come, they're more than welcome.
The New York Times reports Harry and Meghan have left many Canadians giddy.
I think they should live their lives however they want.
I think that's a very reasonable proposition, actually.
The British Mirror says the possibility of paying for the family's security has Canadians furious.
That's frustrating. That's definitely frustrating. I didn't tell them to move here.
But we did find one Canadian who sounds pretty pumped.
We're both kind of giddy about it.
The BC Premier is talking about himself and the Prime Minister, whom he spoke with today.
Canada's a cool place to be. We all are pretty happy about that as Canadians. People want to come here in large numbers. Now we have some Brexit examples that are coming our way. I think that's good news.
He even suggested he could find Harry a job. But this constitutional expert wants Canadians to know there are some jobs the Prince won't be getting.
Prince Harry will not be King of Canada. Prince Harry will not be Governor General. Prince Harry will perhaps have a celebrity profile. He will perhaps help Canadian charities raise money. He may engage in patronage activities and selling his brand. But we are not creating a Canadian royal family.
As for Canadian taxpayers getting stuck with those security bills, the Prime Minister's office won't comment, and the Finance Minister was distinctly less than giddy.
No, we haven't spent any time thinking about this issue.
Coming to Canada won't be an issue, however. A spokesperson for the Minister of Immigration says as royals, they don't need authorization to come here as visitors. But if the family wants to apply for permanent residency, they'll need to go through the same process as any commoner would. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
And joining us now to talk about this more is Bruce Halser with the Monarchist League of Canada. He is in Victoria tonight. Bruce, a lot of unanswered questions about what might happen now or next, but let's assume the Royals are going to move either to BC or perhaps Ontario. What are the pros and cons of each location for them?
Yeah, as you say, we have an intention right now, but not a plan. And I don't think anybody has the plan. It's being developed. What are the pros of British Columbia? Well, of course, we all know the weather is a pro here. And we also know that British Columbians have a pretty laid-back attitude about celebrities and would probably be more inclined to give this royal couple and their space that they want. Ontario may be a better location depending on what sort of line of work the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are going to get into. But I suspect whatever they do, they're going to be flying back to the UK a lot and flying around. And as long as they're near an airport, I'm not sure location's that important.
Okay, and regardless of where they end up, how do you think they're going to deal with the realities of everyday life, getting the groceries, you know, taking children to school, all those regular aspects of life?
I don't know them well enough to tell you, but I'm sure they're quite capable of making their own meals and taking their kids to school. But I don't think we should be under any illusion that they're going to live a typical middle-class existence. They both have some independent wealth already, and they certainly will have the means to earn an income to sustain their lifestyle. Although they're not going to be senior royals, they've made it clear they're going to continue to be members of the royal family and undertake some royal duties and patronages. So I don't think they're going to have 9-to-5 jobs and live a suburban life. I think they'll still live a fairly unique life, just one a little more out of the public eye and the daily grind of being a royal that they have had for the last little while.
Yeah, because I mean, they do say they are trying to seek what they're calling a normal family life. Is it really achievable here?
Well, what's normal? But I think, I think, and we can only guess, what they want to do is raise a family, have their kids go to a school near where they live, not have 3,000 cameras pointed at them all the time whenever they go out. I think the life of a full-time royal is a bit of a bubble. You're, from dawn till dusk, you're at events, you're handing out awards to people or cutting ribbons or all these various things, and I'm not sure they want to do that. They want to have time after school with their kids and maybe make dinner and do that sort of thing. And I think they're looking for a little more balance, and I think that's achievable.
Wherever that may be, we shall see. Bruce, thanks very much for doing this. Bruce Halser with the Monarchist League of Canada, joining us from Victoria. Well, it may have caused problems for a lot of us, but for others, well, the snow is an opportunity for doing that, having a bit of fun. We'll talk the good side of the white stuff coming up next. Quick look at some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
As soon as we hit 17 on the way to the terminal, traffic just stopped dead. And as far as you can see, just a parking lot.
Treacherous conditions on highways and roads throughout the day and this evening in Metro Vancouver. Snow and ice causing chaos for commuters, and there's more of it heading our way.
They should be helping us. They should be stopping this, that we don't have to suffer. And it's not just our community, it's all of South Surrey now.
It reeks like rotten eggs and sewage, so why isn't anyone dealing with the stink in Surrey? Residents are demanding action. And Meghan and Harry and Archie are moving to Canada. The Queen says they'll split their time between here and the UK. There's speculation they'll end up here in BC or Ontario. Well, this blast of winter weather is creating headaches during the Lower Mainland's evening commute, but it's not all bad news. Our Anita Bathe is live in Burnaby over Highway 1, monitoring the situation there. First of all, looks like it's moving a little bit better, Anita.
Yeah, Mike, it's just started to move here probably about 2 minutes ago. Before that, all day, people were traveling along Highway 1, only moving about 20 or 30 kilometers. And when I say all day, I mean from this morning's commute up until about 2 minutes ago. So hopefully this means some relief for the rest of the evening. But, you know, Highway 1, not the only major route seeing traffic delays today. Highway 17, you just heard a clip from a guy who said they were stuck there for 3 hours. Well, it was so bad being stuck on Highway 17 because of the accidents that people were actually peeing into cups and having to open their doors and throw out, you know, the pee onto the streets. It was getting a little bit crazy out there, but desperate times call for desperate measures, I guess. Anyway, hoping again that this traffic has a little bit of relief for tonight. You did mention that it's not all bad news. You're right. Well, some may call this bad, but for some kids today in West Vancouver, Mission, and Chilliwack, they had a day off. They had a snow day. So you can see here, they took to some of the local hills to sled, as one does when it snows outside. What a fun day. I wish I could have been doing that. I also ran into some people getting a little bit creative today. Take a look at this guy. He decided that this was a better way to get around than anything else. I asked him why. Have a listen. Matt, you're on skis.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
It's way safer than traveling by foot. I think this is the way to get around on a day like this.
Are you going to do this all day?
Sure, why not?
So, Mike, the good news is if you like snow, as Brett has mentioned, we are expecting more tomorrow evening into the night and overnight. So that's some good news. I know you're not the biggest fan, so you may not be happy about that, but I am. Let's just hope this time that drivers are a little bit more prepared to handle all of the snow, and perhaps cities in the province will be able to get a better handle on salting and brining the roads this time around. Mike?
All right, as long as everybody gets home safely. Thanks, Anita. Live above Highway 1 in Burnaby tonight. And those treacherous highway conditions we mentioned aren't just limited to Metro Vancouver. It's been a difficult day for drivers on Vancouver Island as well, where emergency crews have been dealing with several accidents.
Morning, basically, since traffic really starts flowing, cars have been sliding down the hill into each other. Somebody parked at the bottom, and then someone else parked at the bottom, and since then those cars kept getting hit. And then a garbage truck tried to come up the hill and made it about halfway up and just started sliding backwards and crushed every car on its way down.
Elsewhere, a white minivan ended up headfirst into the ditch on the Pat Bay Highway near Beaver Lake this morning. It's one of 3 vehicles to go off the road during the morning commute there. The cold front also left behind hefty damage. A tree falling on this home in Courtney. Officials say nobody was hurt in the storm's wake. 20-7 Monday night. There's a live shot of pristine, gorgeous-looking Mount Seymour tonight. Well, that was round 1 of the winter blast. Another's on its way, and Brett is going to break down what we can expect right after the break. A volcano in the Philippines that belched plumes of ash yesterday, today also began to seep lava. Authorities in the area have declared a state of calamity and are warning a hazardous eruption could come within hours or even days. The density of the ashfall has obliterated views of the volcano in the region about 70 kilometers south of Manila. Masks sold out as 8,000 people fled toward the capital. Pineapple groves, buildings, and roads, even birds, have vanished under a thick blanket of ash. Yesterday, the electrical intensity of the ash cloud generated volcanic lightning, signaling a more dangerous phase of the eruption. Police have mapped out an exclusion zone to try to keep people from entering the region.
The weather update is brought to you by The Body Shop that always takes you back to your happy place. BC's favorite, Craftsman Collision, Air Miles, and Bigger Smiles.
I think the happy place for a lot of people was inside today.
Yeah, I couldn't fault you for that. Did you have any difficulties getting in today?
Just getting into the car.
Yeah, probably the hardest part, right? Yeah, well, I'm sad to say, for those that didn't enjoy that experience that you just had this morning, we are going to be in this for the next little while. I know Anita and I are personally celebrating the fact that there's more snow to come. So I'm going to get into all of those details for you right now, but let's take a look this morning at what it was like over the North Shore. You can definitely see some clouds, and then, oh yeah, a few flurries there as well. And then it reduced visibility quite a lot, making it basically really tough to get from A to B today, no matter where you were, even just walking on the sidewalk, a little bit treacherous at times. And I'm here to tell you that you should be prepared for these conditions to continue. If you love winter, you're gonna love what I have to say. If you don't, well, just maybe stay inside and take it easy. But in general, already, Environment Canada letting us know well in advance there is gonna be more snow coming, and I would completely agree with this. This is gonna be a story not only just Tuesday into Wednesday, but a little bit beyond that into the remainder of the week as well. Here's how the timing is going to play out. For the remainder of tonight into tomorrow, it's possible that we see a few flurries, but largely this is going to be our break, our little breather, as it were. Tomorrow afternoon, you're going to see maybe a few flurries go by from west to east as they do, but really it's tomorrow night, starting as early. You can see 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, the entire lower mainland, really the entire south coast. Pretty confident we are going to be all in this together. It is going to be a lot of snow, but it's going to be the fluffy kind of snow because temperatures, as you know, we've been so cold, about 10 degrees below seasonal across much of the continent, that this is going to be stuff that you could just blow off your car if you need. No worrying about shoveling for this. That said, by the time we get into Wednesday and Thursday, well, there's probably going to be another round of that, and it's a little bit too early to tell whether or not that will be wet snow or maybe just a mix of rain and snow. Something certainly to be keeping in mind, but how much snow are we be looking at over the next little while? I think this is a pretty fair estimate, 5 to 10 centimeters for many of us here once again in the lower mainland. This is in addition to the 13 centimeters that we've seen in Vancouver already this year, and the normal amount of snow for Vancouver in January, 11. So we're already above that. Certainly temperatures as well on the cold side continuing to be throughout the overnight periods into the interior, but you're going to see a gradual increase in these temperatures slowly but surely. Tomorrow likely to be the coldest day of the entire winter season so far, and we'll wait and see how the rest of the week plays out.
We certainly will. All right, Brett, thanks.
You're welcome.
The investigation into the fatal crash of Ukrainian Airlines Flight 752 in Tehran continues. What role Canada might play next.
In 2018, an arrest was made that put Canada into the middle of a trade war between the United States and China. I'm Stephen Quinn, the host of the CBC Vancouver original podcast Sanctioned, the Arrest of a Telecom Giant. The extradition hearing of Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou begins on January 20th. Stay on top of the story with new episodes of Sanctioned out now. Make sure you're subscribed to Sanctioned on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Officials in Ottawa say Iran is allowing Canadians to participate in the investigation of the downed Ukrainian airliner, giving Transportation Safety Board teams greater access than expected to be at the crash site and to the flight data recorders. But Canada's exact role remains unclear.
This is not going to be a short investigation, regardless of who leads it. Regardless of our role, this is going to take time to answer all the questions. We know we have expertise that we can bring to this investigation along with our international partners that can help get the answers that the families deserve and that the public wants as well.
Iranian aviation authorities are leading the investigation as per international convention, but Ottawa is pushing for full access as it seeks answers for the loss of Canadian lives last Wednesday. Iran's military admitted to shooting down Flight PS 752, killing all 176 on board, including 57 Canadians. Today, the head of the TSB confirmed the recovered black boxes were damaged and are still in Iran. One team of Canadian specialists is expected to reach Tehran today. Two others who work with flight recorders plan to join the investigation later. Meanwhile, new video was released today by Ukraine. It shows that country's experts working with the wreckage at the plane's crash site in Tehran. But as Chris Brown reports, the investigators have a long and difficult road ahead as they try to piece together what led to last week's tragic incident.
Well, we're getting a new look at the crash site and some of the work that's been going on there by the investigators who are trying to understand exactly the sequence of events that led to this crash. This video is provided by Ukraine's emergency services outfit. It shows Ukrainian investigators talking to eyewitnesses. We see parts of the plane that we haven't seen before with the Ukrainian airline colors on it. And we also see other parts of the plane being put onto a flatbed truck and taken away. We understand that there's a hangar where the plane is being reassembled to help with this investigation. A number of these Ukrainian experts who are on the ground there have done this kind of very sad work before. They were involved 6 years ago when Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 was shot out of the sky. So these people know what to look for when it comes to missiles taking out passenger aircraft. Over the weekend, we had a chance to talk to Alexei Danilov. He is the man coordinating this investigation for the president of Ukraine at the president's office. And he told us about the immensely difficult job that still lays ahead in terms of identifying 176 victims. Iran has 50 experts on DNA, he said. All of them are now working in Tehran after being gathered from around the country. And until the final analysis is complete, he added, countries won't be able to take the bodies of their citizens home. He said roughly 30% of the bodies have been identified so far. Also today, Ukraine's government announced that the actual head of the investigation in Iran is going to be paying a visit here to Kyiv in the next few days. We don't know exactly what the topic of that's going to be, but it is a significant meeting and no doubt to help assure people, not just in Ukraine, but in the broader international community, that Iran is trying to show transparency and that it wants international help in this investigation. Chris Brown, CBC News, Kyiv.
Cheats. The Houston Astros may have won the World Series in 2017, but Major League Baseball has come down hard on the team for sign stealing. The fallout next. Nominations for this year's Academy Awards were announced today, and the movie Joker led the pack. It's up for 11 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor. Joaquin Phoenix has received rave reviews for his portrayal of the iconic comic book villain. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman, and 1917 received 10 nominations each. Little Women got 6 nominations, including Best Picture. But the female director, Greta Gerwig, didn't receive one, and that's causing some controversy. In recent years, the movie industry has faced accusations of marginalizing women. The Oscars will be handed out February 9th. Well, a century after baseball's infamous Black Sox scandal, a very modern kind of cheating got punished today. First by the league, then even more harshly by the team itself. Kim Brunhuber tells us what the Houston Astros did and how they did it.
Have a look at this, the Houston Astros against the Chicago White Sox. And listen closely, listen for an unusual banging sound right before this pitch. There, those 2 loud bangs. That's the sound of an Astros player banging a garbage can. That was the signal in an elaborate scheme to steal signs from the opposing catcher to the pitcher. In November, a former Astros pitcher revealed that team personnel used a center field camera to decode signs, and then players would signal to the hitter which pitch was coming. Today, a league investigation confirmed the allegations, and the Astros were fined a record $5 million.
Listen, it's the stiffest penalty that any team has ever taken or given, and we accept that.
The league also suspended the Houston Astros general manager and manager for an entire year. Then, hours later, the team's owner said he felt he had to go a step further and fired them both.
Neither one of them started this, but neither one of them did anything about it.
The Astros used the system the year they won the World Series, but Crane insists the team being caught for cheating doesn't taint their title.
The Houston Astros are world champions!
Baseball has a long history of sign stealing, but using electronics is against the rules, and in recent years the league has been cracking down. This ruling is a reminder to players and managers to steal signs legally, the old-fashioned way, with their eyes. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, Los Angeles.
You can always find this newscast online at cbc.ca/BC. Our next local news right here at 11 with Dan Burrett after the National. Going to leave you tonight with video taken by the CBC's North by Northwest outdoor guy, Frank Ritzie. 2 creatures are doing just fine in the cold snap this province has been experiencing. An American dipper and a short-tailed weasel. Have a great night. Stay warm.